Order. There was no order prior to this. Is there any public comment on issues with committee jurisdiction that we will not take any action on? Seeing none. Just for the record, I want to point out that the full committee is here. First time that we've all been together in a long time. Nice to see everybody. Have you committee members read the minutes from the April 20th meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Executive Director comments?
Madam Chair, we are through the first stage of our SOC audit. Whitley was doing walkthroughs with staff over the last several weeks. We've already received fiscal 21 legislative audit inquiries, so we're well on the way in that process. The exciting news, which I believe I shared, but I can't remember, our accounting team has automated a significant portion of our financial statement preparation. Thus, the coffee machine down the hallway, not purchased with state resources. We can now run the numerical portion of our financial statements in a matter of minutes, as opposed to the months that used to take us to compile. So significant efficiencies created on that. Hopefully it'll pay off in additional staff capacity over the long haul.
So Dan,
Yes, ma'am.
which portion, just the numerical? Is that
Yes,
what
the
you
notes and everything we'll still have to do.
Yeah.
We'll have to write those, but it's the tables and whatnot are significantly more efficiently prepared.
said? Thank you.
Other than that, we're just very happy with both the fixed income team and accounting. We got the first deposit of ARPA funds last week. I believe it was $450 million. Is that right? Anyone from fixed income anywhere?
Yeah, that's right. It was about 450.
But another 450 coming, and then once that is spent, then the state will receive the second half. Once the treasurer and the budget office request it. So very nimble movement. John will talk about STIP in the investment policy statement section of the board meeting, and one of the changes we're asking for to improve yield for everybody, but also have a little bit more flexibility.
Okay, but I thought we weren't going to have to, or you weren't going to have to deal with the influx of cash and stuff like that. I thought that was going to be a problem this time.
So no, it's the issue we're running into, and John, step in if need be. Last time yields and STIP were higher than what we were going to be able to purchase. This time we're at about a push, but we're very, very near zero.
Right. Okay.
So with this additional money coming in, we now have what the staff is asking for is additional duration
Right.
to get some
To get that
additional yield up. That's it.
How much more do you anticipate above the 450 million? And do you have any idea the time frame?
So I think the state is due about 1.2 billion. That is payable over several years. So it's, we found out the money was coming from a text message that fixed income got from US Bank. So not a lot of heads up that these things are coming. I did call budget office and just ask for, hey guys, if you request the money, will you let us know so we can get prepared? And I think that'll be a little better going forward, hopefully, but we've said that for 25 years and it sometimes happens. So we just gotta be nimble.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? County review, I think is that it as well.
Yep. So I think the memo speaks for itself. I'm happy to answer any questions the board has. Accounting generally I believe is in a good place. I'll let Polly and Emily chime in with any thoughts they may have on the accounting aspects, or Julie on the control and oversight aspects of it. But I think generally we've got a stronger accounting team than we've had in a long time.
So with the automation, does that create additional risk that we got to account for, or the board should be worried about?
No, and the reason I say that is because we still have the ability, we still have to reconcile it, and on the backside, we still have to prepare the notes for the financial statements that we'll have to tie forward. So there's the control environment we've got. Our SOC audit ensures that it's in place. We have our numerical checks. And then we do the accounting team on basically a giant portion of some of our accounting team's time is devoted to just reconciling and making sure that all of the numbers tick and tie, not only at the time of financial statement preparation, but throughout the year. Ultimately, the goal is to get the board more frequent financial statements as opposed to an annual financial statement. I think we've talked about moving to a quarterly system so that it's not all one big rush at the end of the year, but you get to see throughout the year, here's where we're at, here's our positions, and we can update as we go as opposed to just one big statement at the end of the year. Goal would be that we do that for Q1, calendar Q1 of next year.
So even automating, pulling the numbers, they're gonna have to reconcile back to the state, so.
Yep.
A good double check.
In some ways, it's a reduction of risk because, you got humans that can make errors, and if you're reconciling, those humans can miss those errors. So you got people that are reconciling now, and they prior to those transactions being made.
Emily, Polly, Julie, anything I missed? Anything you'd like to touch on? Throw me under the bus on, whatever.
I don't have anything to add, Dan. I think I just echo what you said. I think we have a very strong accounting team. Everybody's working together very well. We have a solid plan going into our fiscal year end coming up at the end of this month. I think we're in good shape.
I would just add, so we haven't changed any of our reconciling process. I mean, we've always been on a periodic basis reconciling back to State Street. With Emily coming on, she had fresh eyes and realized to compile our financial statements, we were pulling from several different sources. And so the big push there was to get everything recorded onto State Street, where some of the things we used to just record on the state's accounting system. And then we can just pull all of the information straight from State Street because we're confident in the reconciliations and we're good with the numbers. But it streamlined things massively. It's a good move.
That also ties in. So the streamlining process continues. We are moving with the new custodial bank to direct general ledger feeds from the custodian to Sabres. So that will be another efficiency we can create, but it'll also eliminate some risk for human error in that process as well. Julie, from a control space, anything to add?
Yeah, my understanding is that they were doing a parallel test of this, and that provided a great deal of comfort for me.
Good. So there you have it.
Any other questions from board members? Director? Okay, charter review. Julie, is this you?
Yeah, I can talk to it unless Dan wants to.
Hold on, I gotta get to the right page. So the audit charter, this is just updating the language around the COOP plan. The board asked last meeting that you review the COOP plan on an annual basis. So the last page of the insert just adds review on an annual basis, the board's COOP plan.
And we already were doing that. Mark very pointed out and we appreciated it, that we should probably have it in our language.
Right, and one thing, so as we move forward on codification, which I can talk about at a later point, is whether or not the COOP plan is a board document that the board is responsible for adopting, or whether it's a staff document that the board is responsible for ensuring is sufficient. Because that document may need changes more frequently than you all are here. So that's one of the conversations I'd like to have as part of that process is who's responsible for the maintenance and adoption of that? Is that a me or is that a you? And then how do we coordinate those two within the audit charter and adopt?
And when do you think we're going to have that conversation?
So the goal now is to get you all a sort of codification document. We have a very rough draft if you want to look at it. It's nothing ready for prime time. But there's a table of contents and a lot of it changed that Peggy has. Not Peg, Peggy. And goal is to get you something within the next several weeks, give you the summer to look over it, make sure it's going in the direction you want to go. Talk about it in August and look at sort of an adoption timeframe similar to the asset allocation so that we can start January 1 clean with a bunch of new systems and processes if we decide to go that route. Rather than try to reset in the middle of a fiscal year or a calendar, just basing it on the calendar year would be kind of easier.
So does that answer your question? Maybe?
It does. It does. So any other questions on this change to our chart? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve? Thank you, Mark. Thanks, Jeff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all of the favor say aye. All same sign, motion carries. Okay, move on to the audit checklist. I think you're on again.
Yeah, you have the updated audit checklist in your packet there, and I'll just hit on a few things here. As Dad mentioned, LAD is working on our audits. They're actually doing both a CARES audit as well as a financial audit. For the financial audit, they hope to wrap up their design in mid-June to July. They will be back for interim financial field work in August and September. And they hope to have our audit completed just under the normal time frame. So that I was glad to hear that they were coming back for their field work in August and September. Whiffley did do the walkthroughs last week during the week of May 17th.
Julie, sorry to interrupt you. We have some questions here.
Oh, okay.
So, Julie, remind me again how this works. So this year is just the financial audit or the financial compliance audit?
They do the financial compliance audits on even years. So last year was a financial compliance audit.
Or this is just a financial audit?
And this is just a financial audit. However, LAD does have the option, and they do periodically test statutes in non-compliance years also. And so it's not as common, but they have done it in the past.
Okay.
We don't have any indication that they're going to test any statutes. That's not to say that they won't.
Okay.
So did you also say this was a CARE, they were going to audit CARES fund? That what?
Yeah, we actually are going to be under an additional audit by LAD. LAD is auditing the CARES funds. And because we had programs that dispersed CARES money, we will be part of that audit.
Now, we have asked Whipfly to, as part of their SOC audit work, to also audit our CARES Act programs to make sure our controls were sufficient. They helped us design them, at least at a suggestion level, nothing formal. So we had already responded to LAD questions about CARES Act Other agencies have gotten their responses in based on a review of the side-by-sides. I feel very good about where we're at.
Chris? Yeah, question, is there any potential for any federal auditing?
So the single
On
audit will
CARES?
take place on CARES Act as well as all federal funds. So that's part of the design that the budget office did when the programs were designed and distributed and the reporting structures were set up. It was to comply with the federal single audit that takes place every year anyway.
But it's the audit, legislative audit, will take care of the same audit, right?
They do the single audit, yep.
Yeah. Thought so, but appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Any other questions for Julie before she moves on? Go ahead, Julie.
And then Whippley will be scheduled to do their testing during the week of July 26th. And the plan is for them to do that remotely also. GASB statements that are to be implemented in fiscal year 21. What was that, Maggie?
Nothing?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. GASB 90 is dealing with majority equity interests. Currently, this statement does not apply to the Board of Investments as we don't own greater than 50% of any entity. GASB 93, which is dealing with the replacement of the interbank offered rates, which is commonly referred to as LIBOR. Currently, this statement does not impact the Board of Investments, as Board of Investments does use and primarily has been using for a period of time the SOFR. We do have a few remaining securities that have ties to LIBOR. However, those securities are not considered derivatives. And GASB 93 is dealing with securities tied to LIBOR that are considered derivatives. So at this time, this statement will not apply to the Board of Investments either. Also, there is an implementation guide that is to be implemented this year. Again, this statement does not impact the Board of Investments as they deal with derivatives. We have a very limited exposure to derivatives, and we do not have the type of derivatives that this implementation guide impacts. Other questions in this implementation guide dealt with pension plans, OPEB plans, non-exchange transactions, capital assets with insurance recoveries, all of which also do not apply to the Board of Investments. So the good news is there's nothing really on the horizon to implement this year. However, looking to fiscal year 22, GASB 87 leases, this is going to impact the Board of Investments from both a leasee perspective and a lessor perspective. We'll need to provide disclosure materials to those agencies which lease one of the buildings reported as direct holdings within our trust fund investment pool. And they will need to include that information in their financial reports. So that'll be something new that we'll have to do. And we'll also have to change our enterprise statement, because from an enterprise statement perspective, we are a leasee. And then from the Unified Investment Program perspective, we are a lessor. So there will be new disclosure in both of our financial statements. Any questions on the GASB statements?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
We'll talk about in just a few minutes the updates to the governance policy, and there will be a decision on that. The last thing I wanted to mention on this checklist right now is that both the custodial bank and the trustee bank's ratings were reviewed from at least 2 nationally recognized statistical rating organizations, and they were found to be within our governance policy requirements. Also, if you noticed on the checklist, I did add an item to correspond with the audit charter. revision that had been requested and has now been approved. And then, of course, we will change the governance policy to correlate with the next items.
Julie, any questions of Julie? Any board members?
Okay, on these ratings, do we ever look at those or and we just, or just says, we look at them, they're all good?
So you give us the requirements of the custodial bank, contract, the performance requirements of the custodial bank, and then we review against those standards.
But I think what we've learned over the years is those ratings being much, at least in my opinion.
Okay.
Especially 2008.
Right.
Working really well on the cap.
Yeah.
Okay, governance policy, who's gonna take that one?
I've got that one. So this is just an update to Appendix L, Resolution 234, continuity of the Chief Investment Officer, and as well as the correlating provisions of the governance manual, eliminating the Deputy Chief Investment position and reverting to what we were in March of 2020.
Any questions? I can read that one. I can tell by the look on your face. You all remember what it was like. We have a motion to approve this. Thanks, Jeff. Second. Thanks, Diana. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything else before this board that you want to talk about? We've got a few minutes. I hate to get too far ahead because Jack will expect it every time.
I do expect it every time.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Meeting dismissed.
So, Mr. Chairman, is it within our order to go ahead with home committee, or how do you want to do this? Yes. Okay. Sit down.
What did you say?
Now, that was a little wishy-washy.
That was.
All right, is that all right with you, Dan, with
Yeah.
our procedures?
We'll be fine.
Good. So I'll call the loan committee to order. Appreciate everybody attending. And the first thing I need to do, of course, is just double check to make sure if there's any public comment on anything within the jurisdiction of the loan committee. So I'll ask for that now. Now would be the time to comment if you have any comment. Hearing none, we'll move on to our agenda, and the next thing is the approval of the committee minutes. I'd entertain a motion to do so. Moved, is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the approval of the minutes as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody that disagrees with that, say aye also. Hearing none, the minutes are approved unanimously. Now we have executive director comments.
First thing, we are seeing some inquiries on the loan programs that are a bit interesting. I am under a non-disclosure agreement with those, so I can't talk about it in an open meeting, but I am happy to bring the board up to speed on them. And frankly need to, so we can do that at some point throughout the course of the next couple of days. Kudos to Doug and his work on the loan programs. We know that the auditors are going to spend a significant amount of time on them. Doug has put a lot of work over the last few months, just making sure every T is crossed and I is dotted. So we're in a far better position there. Not that we were in a weak one, but it's always better to be a little bit ahead of the curve. We are continuing the conversation with our fixed income team and the bond program with Louise, looking at what the program should look like in the future. I think at a minimum, you'll see a request from us during next year's remarketing to consolidate the 6 outstanding bond series into one. next year. It'll simplify accounting and it'll streamline our processes quite a bit. Don't know how much further we want to go with that. We've got a meeting after this board meeting to talk about sort of long-term strategy and what that looks like. So there's that'll be an elongated conversation for August. Other than that, I think we're in a pretty good place on the loan side of the ledger. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Dan regarding loans or intercap?
Also, I would note Representative Walsh has joined us.
Welcome.
Good morning. Sorry I'm late. Had a few irrigation problems this morning that were unexpected. So, and I'm just here to listen and
Understand.
join you tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, welcome. I just want to encourage, if you do have questions, be sure and ask, because we like to see that. If there's no other questions or no other things from Dan, is that your report?
Yep.
Okay, we've got a little bit here to talk about 2 hospital programs. And Adam Gill, who is here with us, has just joined. He's going to talk a little bit about that, and especially for the few new members here, maybe on a real high, short level. You could explain how the program works and why Board of Investments is involved.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So thank you, Adam.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for providing me this time and opportunity to present these financings. Madam Gill, I'm the Director of the Montana Facility Finance Authority. Our mission is to provide access to cost-effective capital and development services to Montana communities. And since our founding, we've structured over $3.5 billion in bonds, notes, and loans for approximately 100 facilities across Montana. The Master Loan Program, which is what I'm here to discuss today, was created in 1992 to provide access to affordable financing option for mid-tier hospitals in Montana. It's difficult for smaller facilities to access a good bond rate, and so it's difficult for them to get a low-cost interest rate. Now, that leaves them either doing what's conventional financing, which can be more expensive because it's taxable, or having to go with unrated bonds, which again are a higher interest cost. Now, since the program's inception, 32 series of bonds have been issued for a total amount of $272,465,000 for 16 borrowers. And we've done that without a single default, missed payment, or need to pull on reserve of the program at all. Now, these bonds are issued under the Master Loan Program. They receive an enhancement from the Board of Investments. That enhancement provides the bonds an excellent rating and significantly decreases the interest rate and debt service on these facilities. This enhancement is drawn on in the case where a draw on the reserve fund is needed to cover a payment. The center of that enhancement is that debt service reserve. With every bond issue, a bond-funded debt service reserve is established. This amount represents the lesser of 10% of the outstanding of the total bond amount, or the maximum annual debt service of the bond. As of March 30th, 2021, there are 102,230,000 in Master Loan Program bonds with a funded reserve of 9.176 million. In addition to the reserve fund, there's a bond sinking fund, which a borrower pays 1/12 of the annual principal and interest payments due each month. This is a holding fund for their annual principal and biannual principal payments. This serves as a mechanism where if a borrower misses one of those monthly payments, we're able to identify a problem and address it before they reach a point of actually missing payments. In addition, it makes sure that even if they do miss a payment, it's unlikely to miss a full payment rather only a partial payment. Now, in addition, the payments missed and the reserves are drawn on if that ever happened, and it's never happened. Funds are loaned to the authority to replenish the reserve, and no funds go to the borrower at all. Now, in addition to whatever we may have to draw from Board of Investments at such event, we have our own reserves which we've committed to providing into the program before we would go to the Board of Investments to cover that cost. Today, we have a reserve of about 3.27 million, of which 1.45 is specifically designated for this program. In addition, we have 1.6 million available through the available funds to lend from our direct loan program, which could be called upon by action of our board. So one more thing to note on this is that the Board of Investments receives a fee of about 135 basis points of the par amount of the bond. That's the average running since about 1992. To date, the Board of Investments has received $3.6 million in enhancement fees from this program. So moving on, I'm going to move us over to Marcus Daly Community Memorial Hospital.
Just 1 second. Is there any questions or anything?
Once more, the board is getting, how many bases?
135 basis points. And we'll get, that's the estimated fee for both of these financings today as well.
Now, you have how much in reserve before the board is going to be responsible for covering?
We bring forth at least 1.45 million before that.
Okay. And, okay, so how, never mind.
Assuming we ever had to fund that reserve, Dan, money would come from where?
So these are coal trust, if I'm not mistaken.
That's cool, Justin.
Okay.
And then you love the authority. I can't remember the exact rate, but it's I think it's pegged to a particular index plus a margin. I remember it's steep enough for us to make sure we're very conservative on this.
We're not gonna lose money on it.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else on the program in general? Okay.
So, so we're bringing forward today 2 requests, one for Marcus Daly Memorial Hospital in Hamilton, the other for Community Hospital of Anaconda. And so Dan can stay in the room just a little bit longer first. We'll start with Marcus Daly Memorial in Hamilton. So this is a nonprofit community hospital, 25-bed critical access hospital in Hamilton, Montana. It is ranked as the sole provider for a Valley County market. They're ranked as the top 100 critical access hospital for the last 8 years, in 2013, 2016, 17, and 18. And to note this, there's about 2,050 critical access hospitals in the country. There's hospitals with 25 beds or less. With that, to place in the top 100 is to place in the top 5% of facilities in the country. So moving on to page 1 of the financing. The purpose of the financing is to fund a renovation and expansion project that includes creation of a new procedure endoscopy suite, new conference rooms, new infusion center, as well as a new clinic in Stevensville. In addition, the Finance Authority is serving as a conduit for non-enhanced bonds that include financing a clinic in Darby, expansion and renovation of outpatient services, and a refunding of their existing standalone several of their existing notes to simplify and streamline their debt service portfolio. So overall project cost is estimated at $40.2 million, expected bond financing over $35 million. Project will be financed by 2 bond issuances, Master Loan Program bond of $10 million, which is what I'm here for today, and standalone financing, which has been approved by the authority board of $25 million. Expected loan term is 20 years, interest rate determined at point of bond sale. Currently estimating a rate of 2.53% for the Master Loan Program, according to Dave Davidson, who's serving as underwriter on this project, and 3.19% on the standalone portion. This is a fantastic demonstration that 60 basis point difference, the difference between rated and not rated, and going forward with the board investments rating. So as we pursue a rating on this, we expect, given that's again largely because of size, because our financials are in excellent condition, they will receive a BB or BB plus rating. If not for the size measures that go into S&P's system, they likely come out with a BBB or BBB minus. It's really just because of the size of the facility that's holding them. And even so much size of the market. In order to they get a serious penalty on their rating if they have less than 100,000 people in their service area. So, and even major hospitals like Bozeman have been finding this. Bozeman only hit that piece about 5-6 years ago. And so this has been an uphill battle for Montana hospitals across the board. Moving to page 2, we look at their market. Marcus Daly is really in a fun position. Sole community providers, there's no competitors for inpatient services in their private area. The secondary market competitors are St. Patrick Community Medical Center, both 50 miles away. There are no other critical access hospitals for 50 miles from Marcus Daly Memorial. So they really have a geographic corner on their market. And that is afforded them not only a growing community that's doing well, that's prospering economically, but they also have no one else around to compete with. So they've done very well for themselves. Moving to management, I want to note a couple of pieces. They have a very strong management team, extensive experience in healthcare leadership. John Bishop, their CEO, has been with the hospital since May of 2018. Prior to that, he served St. Charles Health System in Prineville and Madras, Oregon. Before that, he was the chief, before Marcus Daly itself, he was the CEO of Madison Valley Medical Center at Ennis, where he did fantastic work in managing a facility there as well. Their CFO, Trevor Lewis, has been with the hospital since just recently, July 2020. He served as a CFO for Arkansas Valley Regional Medical Center in Colorado and Page Hospital in Arizona. They're both very experienced, both have a very good handle on financials of the organization. Now moving on to COVID, because it's been that kind of year. I think I'm going to have the COVID response section of my loan summary is going to be a standard thing for the next 4 years, but it's just what we have to do. This obviously had a direct financial impact on Marcus Daly. It caused a plateau for in the revenue for a while, but ultimately they saw a profitable year despite the serious challenges of coronavirus. Additional services were offered during this time, including telehealth, bioclinic, and lab and expansion in lab volumes, and it received COVID-related stimulus funding in the amount of $6.2 million, including Paycheck Protection Act loans, Paycheck Protection Program loans. I believe those are still waiting on forgiveness. This is now, although that Paycheck Protection, a lot of Montana critical access hospitals were able to access those, but larger loans are taking a lot longer to receive forgiveness from the government on that. So a lot of them have that filling in their books for the next year until they receive that forgiveness piece. So moving on to financials, page 5 and 6. A few things I want to note here. Cash and investments has grown significantly since fiscal 18, 14 million to over 25 million. This is due to inpatient and outpatient service growth. This moves our days cash from 97 days cash on hand, which is very good for a rural hospital, to over 141 days cash on hand, which is fantastic. And they do believe they can bring that to over 150 in coming years quite easily. Marcus Daily has done well with net income, $3 million, despite the upfront cost of expanding service lines in FY20. Interim financials show them at net income compared to a budget of $3 million. So they're doing very well there in the interim period. Also, generally, critical access hospitals in Montana have a negative operating margin and only thinly positive total margin. For Marcus Daily is currently sitting at 4.57% operating margin to the positive and a 5.25% total margin. So they're doing fantastic for being a rural hospital. Doing fast deficit even without the qualifier. Looking at ratios on page 6, you see that medians for Montana hospitals compared to Marcus Daily. They measure the liquidity, margin, debt service, and they exceed state medians. Now, many of these medians are a little aged, but this is just kind of when they get released. Marcus Cities continue to grow the revenue stream in renovation, the new renovation clinic projects, and they plan to further increase, will probably grow the revenues further. With that, we move to page 7, anticipated financing changes. Some context. In 2017, we started working with Marcus Daily on their debt service portfolio. They had over 22 different financings in the portfolio at that point. And because their CEO at the time was fantastic at working the deals. The arm twisting rates that he would pull from banks were just phenomenal. But also meant he had a very large, very complex portfolio with different rates and terms, amortization schedules, balloon payments. And in 2017, we were able to get a lot of that under one roof. And with this financing, we'll complete the simplification of the Marcus Daily debt portfolio, providing smoother annual debt service and a simpler compliance process. Now, that's just the standalone portion, but it does impact that risk on the master loan side, of course. As noted in the master loan program, borrowers need to show a debt service reserve coverage of 1.35 times in both prior fiscal years and have an entry to this program. So we should look at the pro forma that's available on page 7. Marcus Daily shows a pro forma of 2.91 times coverage, 2.65 times coverage, 19 and 20 respectively. So even with the new debt, they well exceed margin coverages. They're in a fantastic position.
Quick question, when refinancing of those many loans, did the interest rates go up?
So we were able to secure net savings across them was more or less a wash. Largely because some of the terms were extended or expanded, some were cut down. And their CEO at the time, John Bartos, he finagled like a 2.65 taxable on one bank, which was probably good 50, 60 basis points below what we could have gotten on tax exempt at the time. He could arm twist like nobody's business.
So it all kind of came on the wash, but the main thing is it's now much simpler.
Yes, much simpler. And because we're looking at balloon payments and other pieces, and it's hard to wrap a debt service schedule around those payment lines, but now it's much simpler, much smoother. Thank you.
I could. Yeah. So Adam, I'm looking at the chart on the bottom of page 7 correctly. Trail West, Farmer State Bank, Trail West, and Facility Revenue Bond, Series 2017. Those will all be refunded into this series. So the only thing left then would be master loan program, previous one, and the trust fund loan from 2019.
The trust fund loan is our program. So at this point, they'll be under a common indenture, and they won't have basically through us through board investments. So they'll be in fantastic position in terms of
that's the simplification. It's one instead of 5 to individual lenders.
Yeah, and everything under one indenture instead of 22 different loans.
Thank you.
Other questions on the financing?
So we'll have to approve this at loan committee, which is actually a recommendation to the full board. And then the full board formally approves it. Adam, I'd ask you just because the whole board is basically here, but if you would come for the record for the full board meeting. Agenda.
Absolutely.
Just to give you credit and a face to the program. Have you just do a little presentation too. But so on Marcus Daily, is there any questions at all from anybody?
Yeah, Jack, I've got another question. Adam, I can us back to the COVID-19 response. I read this book for Marcus Daily and for not quite sure what I was reading with regard to what happened to the stimulus funds, and it says does not anticipate having to return. Yeah, I would just like a little bit more explanation on this one, and then when we get to the next one. Yeah, really quite sure. I don't understand what you're saying.
So with the various stimulus bills that were passed during COVID, hospitals received, rural hospitals particularly received several lines of funding available to them. There was provider relief funds, which was $100 billion to later $150 billion put aside for hospitals. And that had some strings attached and some rules attached. But it largely went around that you have to be for COVID-related care or expenses related to COVID. And that's where the risk of them having to potentially return funds comes from. There's always subject to audit, there's always subject to review, and that's why they can only say they anticipate that. They anticipate being okay with it, but there's always maybe something out there they can't financially responsibly say that. In addition, there are paycheck protection program that where they're able to receive a loan from a bank in the state that has a basically the ability to forgive it later if they use it to maintain staff levels, plus a small amount for other costs. They were able to use their solely for staffing level to maintain staffing levels. They anticipate that they've met all of the requirements of the program. It's just that forgiveness on that program stated no longer than it is for small loans.
Bruce, is that?
Yeah, I understand it better now.
And if we looked, if I had their interim financials in front of us, what we'd see is they'd have additional current liability for that amount. And they when it recognized as cash in.
In the event.
Exactly. And that's where a lot of hospitals are at. It's just the headache for their auditors right now. How do we recognize this? When do we get to recognize this? And because it's happening in fits and starts, forgiveness is different for everyone. It just moves at its own pace.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Adam, on the structure for this, could you explain how these funds are being split up between the master loan program, the zoo financing?
So
with the new project?
So the 2021B is broken out those 4 ways really for illustrative purposes.
You're on page
Page 2. It will just be, this is just to re-demonstrate where those funds are being funneled. Master loan program alone is just 2021, is just the 2021 A bonds. And so in terms of what we're looking at, a par amount of up to $10 million, expect when we go to market, they'll receive a premium of about 1.9 billion to additional funds that can raise the cost of interest, but the interest is so low and the return on it is so good, you can't really turn down 1.9 billion for additional funds. And then, of course, cash contribution from the borrower. With that, so they have a project fund of about 10.9 million. They build reserve fund of 750,000, and we cover some of the cost of issuance. And then some of the other costs of issuance from the master loan program will be rolled into the 2021B as well, up to the 2% that's allowable under law. Because with that 135 basis point guarantee, as well as legal underwriter and everything else, we obviously exceed that 2% on that master loan, so we'll roll some of those costs into the 2021B.
Yeah, specifically, so is there a reason why more funds could be attributed into the master loan program?
We are coming up on our cap. So we have a voluntary
So
cap.
that's
on
on
this
your
program.
side, not on this loan
Yeah.
side.
We're a victim of our own success. So the indenture for the program runs, I believe, 180 or 190 million, but we voluntarily limited ourselves in 2010 in discussions with the Board of Investments to $120 million outstanding. So we're at 102 million right now. With the 10 million from this program, up to 8 million from Anaconda, well, then we've hit our cap. And the only reason we wouldn't be over that cap is because we have some payments coming through as time goes by, including the defeasance of the Marias Medical Center bonds that we still clear. So we're coming in par on the cap right now. That's really what's driving this. I mean, if I could put more in, I'd have to put.
That was a Board of Investment.
I got you.
And it was driven by exposure to the Board of Investments in the Montana healthcare market at the time.
Correct. Is that something that's being reviewed, or is there a plan to review that in the future? How you hit the cap?
In the
So-
future, once we had to get past legislative session for that conversation was going to come up again.
So staff had a conversation about it. My recommendation is that we not increase our exposure on that front. At this time, we're getting significant pressure on trust fund yield by the other participants in the pools. And if we continue to move money into this program with the lower rates, we're going to have a hard time with other participants. So it's that balancing act and how far we want to go. Certainly happy to put together some financial projections around that if the board wishes to go that route. But for the time being, given new legislature, new administration, I thought it was best that we just stand pat for a few years and see where we're at and go from there. But you're the bosses.
Was there anybody that would like Dan to provide a fuller summary of where we're at?
Do you believe there will be hospitals that we could have helped, but we won't, or you could have helped, but won't be helped because we have that limit?
I have one active borrower who's an unknown at this point. I haven't seen their financials lately, so I can't say they qualify for the program yet. But I think we a lot of the ones we've had in, I don't think we'll get the next couple of years. I think we have at least a year before we figure out this piece and see what.
And with payoffs, you have a little bit of.
Yeah, just create about $4 million in room per year. And once we start, we loaned on some larger projects, starting about 2023, we'll start seeing some larger payments on those come in. But they are construction projects that take some time to start their repayment.
So I guess all I would ask is that we can continue to monitor this, because I would hate to not be able to help just because we had a limit, but
Well, this is one of those places where the fiduciary duty conversation fades in. Who does our fiduciary duties lie
Exactly.
with? It lies to the trust participants and not to the hospitals.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 from our side.
Okay.
Disclosure, I guess. Part of the
Additional comments or questions?
Sorry for dragging it further, but just to clarify, so you spoke of funds specifically on low return for MBOI or the trust fund within this program. I guess it was just my understanding that we're just providing a potential kind of backstop for, to fill the gap within the debt service reserve fund, and we get 135 basis points.
Our investment strategy changes based on what we have outstanding. So if that debt were to be, if we were to have to step in, we couldn't have it in a long-term security.
I gotcha.
So the mix of what's outstanding, and I'll get the spreadsheet for the board. Actually, Emily, will you print me the spreadsheet you did for Senate financing claims on the outstanding obligations of the coal trust? And it'll just give you a good idea of what the total mix is of where we're at. Because it does have an impact on sort of what the limitations are of.
So if there's no additional questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the master loan agreement for Market Day. Is there a second? Second. It's been seconded. Again, additional comments or questions? If not, all in favor of this, say aye. Aye. Is there anybody opposed? Hearing none, this is approved unanimously. So now you got
Just very quickly, due to the genetic strength of the senior management of the next applicant, I'm not able to participate.
How do we judge that?
So, yeah,
That was a self acknowledgement. You can judge it however way you want, Mr. Chairman.
so don't ask you any questions.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's good for the record that that is noticed and so we'll proceed.
Thank you. So members of the committee, the Facility Finance Authority is bringing finance request for Anaconda Community Hospital. This is a critical access hospital, with 25 beds, with a 62-bed nursing facility located, of course, in Anaconda, Montana. Hospital has been recognized as one of the best critical access hospitals in Montana, as well as in the US. Hospital Advantage top 100 critical access hospitals, just 6 in the last 10 years. Top 20 critical access hospital, World Healthcare Association in 2012 and 2015. And Becker's Hospital Review places in the top 100 in 2013 and 2015. And this, again, it's placed in that top 100, is to place the top 5% of the country. So Montana is blessed to have such fantastic hospitals available to it. The tax exempt bond issue here will be private issuance. Structure is approximately 7.64 million master loan program issuance and 19.94 million standalone program issuance. Some of the financing were refinanced loans held by First Montana Bank and Rocky Mountain Bank, including USDA guaranteed loan. National Loan Program will support the hospital's new infusion oncology as well as physician infusion oncology physician clinic project. The infusion room will include 4 private rooms, an open area for patients to visit with friends, nurses station, utility and work areas, and an open kitchen. Pharmacy will include positive and negative mixing rooms and storage space. Space will also include atmospheric waiting rooms and physician offices, clinic exam, private offices. Term on the master loan portion will be 20 years. Both the standalone and master loan program will be privately placed. We're working with Piper Jaffray as the placement agent.
Adam, what's the atmospheric waiting?
So that's it's
There.
pressurized for your comfort. High altitude state. It's in order to help keep that anything that comes into there from transmitting to the rest of the.
Oh, okay.
There's the pressure in the room. Because that's always a risk on the waiting rooms. You haven't brought someone in, they haven't been assessed yet. And you don't know what they can bring in. That's always been a nightmare on COVID. So this will help them with that respect as well.
They didn't come with their manuals.
With that, moving on, so we don't expect, because we're doing a private placement, we don't see a need for a rating on this. And again, if they were to go for a rating, they're likely going to be caught in that size trap that really does hold back on hospitals. But going forward on this, looking at their market share. So this is different than Marcus Daily, and this is impressive in it. Their market share covers Deer Lodge and Silver Bow County, and their total population is about 45,000 take. They have clinics in Butte that serve patients from 8 separate counties. Their market share comes from Grand Powell. The weird thing is that they are sitting within 25 miles of a large hospital, St. James. They're in the secondary, they're another 30 some miles from the hospital in Powell, Powell Memorial, which is a fantastic hospital as well. And then they are secondary market for Bozeman, St. Peter's, St. Patrick's Community Hospital in Missoula. Despite all of this, that the significant headwinds that should present, they have carved out fantastic market share. And to the point where they pull patients from Butte. They pull patients from surrounding communities rather than seeing them bleed out to larger facilities. And that's a testament to their leadership and to the quality of care at the facility. And so with that, really getting to management then. So they've experienced some long-serving management, which is rare in many hospitals. But Joel Villa, their chief executive officer, served with them as CEO since 2018. Served at the hospital for more than 40 years, including serving as vice president of nursing, vice president of quality and regulatory compliance, and vice president of clinical services. Their CFO and assistant CEO, Maggie Hickey Boynton, has served with, has been a CFO since 2018. Before that, she was vice president of human resources from 2005 to 2018. So very qualified and long-serving commitment to the community, long-serving commitment to the facility is really what you want to see. So moving on to the COVID response on page 30. The hospital works to maintain staffing levels and community levels throughout the pandemic. Not every hospital was able to do this. And it's because of paycheck protection and other things are able to maintain low staffing levels and they have to send anything home. But they're able to send them remotely, help them maintain that position. As a result, they're able to do that with paycheck protection and provide relief funds. And that will then go forward. So they're right now, they're Current stimulus is about 3.95 million. They expect that to be forgiven. And they have it all about June 30th. And they'll account for the remaining funds by the end of this fiscal year. And those subject, of course, everything is subject to health and service audit. So we'll see how that goes. But they're being well run, being conservative in how they use the funds. We anticipate that they'll be just fine. So moving on to their financials in page 4. So the hospital's having, and actually interrupts on page 5. The hospital's having a fantastic fiscal 21. Despite the difficult operating environment caused by COVID, the hospital projects 21 million in net patient service revenue compared to the budget of 19.7 million. Hospital showing 2.7 million in net revenue over expense compared to a budget of 4.7 million. The reason for this difference, the hospital budget forgiveness for paycheck protection 5.43 million in March, and they haven't received it yet. So they're actually right. If you take out the consideration of paycheck protection, they're running well ahead of budget and doing very well within the period. Cash and equivalents increased from 14.9 million in FY19 to 26.4 million in the unaudited fiscal 20. Cash increased due to the receipt of the paycheck protection funds, the amount of 5.43, stimulus funds for about 6.5 million. Operating margins decreased from 7.97% in FY19 to just barely negative in the unaudited FY20. This decrease in operating margins is due to decreased volume and increased supply costs for COVID. Increase in operating costs mainly associated with salaries, wages, and employee benefits increasing in the year. Again, as I said before, it is not uncommon. If we look at page 5, the medians for 2018 Montana medians, most hospitals were at a negative 7% operating margin, and their normal operating margin is a positive 7% for FY19. So their unaudited FY20 was a little more difficult, but they're still in a fantastic position. Again, also looking at their overall, looking at their, so even at the total margin, again, just in a fantastic position. Despite carrying a negative operating margin in a difficult year, this list still exceeds margins for other Montana critical access hospitals. Despite serious financial stress placed by COVID, they ended the year with a net income in excess of 1.2 million. So really in a fantastic position despite everything else. And finally, moving to anticipated changes in pro forma. This financing expands the hospital service lines and grows their revenue by projected 1.1 million per year. And that's not all of the pro forma. They'll consolidate debt while providing a lower interest rate and as note under master loan borrowers need to show again that 1.35 times coverage. So their pro forma for those periods for 19 and 20 is 4.8 times coverage and 2 times coverage for FY19 and 20 respectively. Now we can't estimate finance savings on the refinancing since we see bank packages response to the request for terms. But given the interest rates that some of the loans are being refunded, including one note that's over 6%, we anticipate significant savings to come from the refunding of the bonds, which will of course just go to further to secure the ability to make repayments. And so we anticipate that they will go forward with this project and have excellent financials from this point forward. Do you have any questions on the financing?
Questions? And so the payer mix is very interesting.
Yeah, on that note, we discovered that pair after our board meeting. That is actually the credit risk exposure to payer mix. Their payer mix is much closer to actual Marcus Daily. It's much lower self-pay between below 5%.
Oh, okay.
And then most of that mix went into Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay. But still it's a high commercial.
And the commercial is where the money is.
Right. And why is that, you know?
So the way reimbursement works for hospitals, and this is the
I know why it's the most lucrative, but why is there such a high percentage?
Everybody works for the government in the valley. So you're a state employee, you're a school district employee, you're a county employee, all of them have commercial coverage.
Prison.
Okay.
Prison, Warm Springs.
and so they're on good commercial insurance.
Okay. And then it looks like we have Bartos again.
He is serving as a consultant for them on this. So he's failing at his retirement. He was supposed to retire, and he just couldn't bring himself to do it. So he's serving as a consultant on projects around the state.
Nope, that's
Is that kind of like just not taking the cases, but still?
no, it's not.
Maggie, do you want to comment?
No.
Okay.
I'm a former board chair who also repeatedly failed at retirement, retired from Malta and spent the next few years at about 7 or 8 different facilities doing term, swearing he was retired.
Again, any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to
Can I
approve. Go
ask a
ahead.
question?
Maggie.
Sorry. I'm looking at this picture. I just want to make sure I understand.
Yes.
So the existing hospital, this pink over the side.
Yes.
Where's the entrance?
That's just like a portion of the building.
Oh, just a portion of the.
Yeah.
So which direction are they building? onto? This is obviously.
Yeah, I think it's going to be.
Toward West Valley.
Towards West Valley? He said towards West Valley.
The white is all the new area, and then eventually I hope we go to the spray shade areas.
That's in the future.
Yeah.
That's the house.
100%. This is fantastic. for them.
So this is you.
I believe so. Yeah, when we got to kind of compass was on it, so.
I'm just curious. Thank you.
Well, we don't want you getting lost. You have to go there.
Crazy. Well, if I had to go anywhere, I would go to. I would never go to view.
All right, let's
No,
move
I'm just
on.
saying it's 15 miles further.
Correct. So I'll entertain a motion to approve this request from Anaconda Hospital. So second, moved and seconded. Again, a chance for any questions or comment. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, this is approved unanimously. So we'll see you for a minute or two with the board meeting. Thank you. You do a very nice presentation.
Oh, thank you. Just ask that you not tell my board that you all got personal notes with Dan.
We will know that.
Start saying some expectation.
Right away. Adam, we're all a little confused. We didn't-
You get pins.
It took me a second to look, why are they all different?
Failed your first test. I thought it was.
Thank you very much.
Sponsors.
Somebody was taking notes. Kenworth.
Okay, so now that we're expert on hospitals, we'll move on to see if we know anything about Intercap. Louise, are you gonna do that for us today?
I'm happy to do that.
Great, I'll turn it over to you then.
Okay.
Okay.
Just really briefly, if we could just do a quick comm check by thumbs up, does everyone hear me okay? Wonderful, thank you.
Louise has got a question before we start here.
Absolutely.
It's not a question, like Dan on the previous one, because I'm not only in the Fort Ellis Fire Service Area, east of Bozeman, but my brother-in-law is the chair of the board of directors of this fire service area. I recuse myself, also gives me a chance to excuse myself for that.
Thank you for that.
Well, we'll note that.
The second part of that shouldn't be on the record.
We'll note the first part for the record. Again, for abundance of caution, so. Thank you, and now Louise, I guess it's up to you.
Okay, thank you. There's two loan requests today for the bond program, and they are both fire related. Public safety, it looks like with the increase of people coming into the state, there's also going to be added public safety things, as we can see in the loans that we're doing here lately. The first one is for Lockwood Rural Fire District, and this is, of course, behind the loan committee tab. And I see that, I hope everyone, what I'm seeing here is that you found it. Okay, so it is Lockwood Rural Fire District. They are requesting $2,760,000 to refinance their fire station bank loan over a 15-year period. As we're well aware of the Lockwood area, it is growing and growing fast. It is east of the city of Billings, and the Lockwood Fire District takes care of that side in addition to their own boundaries. So they are increasing their busyness, I guess, in their job as providing fire protection. So with the in the Intercap debt section there, you'll see that in May, the board staff approved a $800,000 loan to the district to purchase land next to the fire station for a fire training area. Originally, this request was combined with this refinance, but due to the timing that they had on the land purchase, we recommended that they go ahead and separate that out. Well, we got the staff board approval level for them to get that part of it done, and then move this piece forward for loan committee to approve. And this would be their only debt at this time. So the repayment, the original note was at 3.25%, and it's due to adjust in August 2024, not to exceed 4.25% to maturity. Just as an example, the original note was, they entered into that note in 2014. And so within that time period, the average intercap rate would have been 2.121% in comparison. And using a 15-year average of the program, we're at 2.36%. So they're going to receive some savings there in refinancing that debt with us. It's estimated about a little over 260,000 over the life of the loan is what's expected, and that actually could get them another water tender. That's how much those trucks cost. So anytime you see one of those big beauties rolling about, they do not come cheap. But we all need them, and they're very valuable. So board staff is recommending approval of this loan, and I welcome any questions.
Questions for Louise?
Could you remind me at least what the current cap rate is? Because it's a 1-year adjustable, correct?
Right, it's a 1-year adjustable. Right now it's 1.65%.
Anything else?
Do you, one more question on these, typically, I guess with a lot of fire districts, you'll see this, in fire station construction, financed through a unlimited tax general obligation bond, a property tax levy. Is that the case here, or is this just kind of a general fund pledge?
This would be a general fund pledge, so more of a general promise to pay note instead of, I believe what you're referring to is a general obligation bond, and that would be actual voted. That would be a voted debt where they could charge the taxpayers above and beyond their property tax cap to pay.
Is there any reason on this loan or these types of loans that we don't take the fire station as collateral rather than doing just the general fund pledge?
That's a really good question. And the program has never taken mortgage or deed of trust on public property. And the realization to that is, do we really want to be kicking out our public servants out of when they're serving the public? Would that really look good for us? So part of the greatest part of this program is that we've never had a default. So that's never been something that we need to question or look into further.
Well, this borrower in particular looks to be, well-heeled in a good market area. I guess I generally sometimes have, not in this case, but in general, sometimes I feel like some fire districts can be, from a general fund pledge perspective, a little bit higher risk. But we'll take it one at a time. This one looks fine.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because the function of this committee is to judge that interest. That's why they come. So we do have options.
I think we need to note that Jack Brown is a bank that he once foreclosed on a church. Now you want a fire station.
Yeah, we know it's both bankers. Right.
Similar mindsets.
So we know the standard.
We know the standards we're dealing with here.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So with no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Lockwood fire request.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, move to second. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion or questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Hearing none, the approval is unanimous. All right, Louise, you're on a roll.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that approval. The next one is for Fort Ellis Fire Service Area. That's in the Bozeman area. They are requesting $3 million to finance construction of a new fire station. This will also be a general promise to pay note over the 15-year term. The fire service area is contributing $500,000 towards the $3.5 million total cost, which includes the 5% contingency in there for construction. The intent is to award the contract in this month and also for the project to be fully complete and ready for occupancy by January 2023. Now it's interesting when you have we have fire districts and we have fire service areas. So I'd like to reference everyone to the box on page 2, where it discusses that a little bit of what the difference is between the fire district and fire service areas. It really is how they are funded. So a district is based on mill value that's subject to property tax limitations. The fire service area, actually, the trustees present a schedule of rates per structure or undeveloped land in conjunction with the annual budget request to the county commissioners to implement. And according to the fire service area, once the area has been annexed into the fire service area, the landowner cannot opt out of the fee. Both methods are on the property owner's tax bill, and if not paid, they are put as a lien on the property. So there's just a little explanation as to what the difference is between the two. So going a little bit further back onto page 1 with the project itself, the fire service area has been in existence since 1969. The new station, which the new station plan, which is showing on Exhibit A, that is the plan is to construct that on 4 acres that is secured by a perpetual easement. And I had our in-house counsel, Dan White, take a look at that easement, and he does agree that it's a solid document. And also you'll see an extra condition that is referencing that easement that we are adding to this loan. So the new site is just going to be up the road and will replace the existing location under lease since 1974. And that lease is expiring in 2024. And the fire service area has been very, very good at keeping everyone in their area apprised of the need for a new station, especially with the growth that's happening. And so this would be right now they are debt free. So this would be their only loan outstanding once it closes, if approved, of course. Moving on to page 2, we talk about the repayment. The repayment and the facility operation support are dependent on the county commissioners voting to impose a per unit fee increase during the next annual budget meeting. So that increase, the last one was for up to $250 in 2018, and they are going to be requesting an increase up to $375 per unit for the 2022 tax cycle. Reviewing their past increase process, the FSA has ensured that public is well informed and has ample opportunity to comment in the form of written and or oral testimony prior to presenting at the annual budget for the county to implement. And the last time they've done this, there has been no written protest or comments for the last increase. But you'll see with our moving on to the recommendation, I put on a couple more conditions there. Of course, we want to make sure that that rate increase is in place before we authorize releasing funds on this, and also that the perpetual easement is showing on the title warranty. And also within that easement, there is a provision in there for that land to the grantor of that land, if they were to exercise that right of reversion under the perpetual easement, that the loan would be due immediately upon if that were to happen. It's very unlikely that will happen. And part of the information in that perpetual easement is, of course, the grantors, if that property, say the fire service area, is no longer using it for the fire service area purposes, that's when 2 years down the road that the grantor can come in and do that. So I just wanted to put that little extra bit in there just in case by some unlikely event that were to happen, that loan would be due immediately so that we are not involved with that. We are recommending approval, and they can adequately service that debt so long that rate is put into place.
Okay.
So we're gonna just go ahead and wait and you wanna finish up and then if there's questions. We're gonna-
I don't know where exactly it dropped off.
Second condition.
We're back. Sorry, technical difficulties.
Okay, let me catch up here. Okay, so I was discussing about the perpetual easement, the grantor, how much of that?
We got that.
You got all that? Okay, so
Number
really what,
two.
number two, yep. So with those conditions, board staff is recommending approval of this loan. I wanted to put those extra conditions in there. I think it was necessary to tighten it up a little bit. The FSA acknowledges this is a big for them in comparison to their budget. But they have been very straightforward with keeping their people in their area very informed about what's going on. And of course, we know Bozeman is growing like fire. So with that is of course increased public safety. There you go.
Any questions for Louise? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this request.
Would you add the with staff conditions?
Yeah, and as part of that motion, of course, would be all those requirements and recommendations by staff.
I just have one question, if I can.
Sure, go ahead.
So if they're taking 500,000, that leaves them only about 245,000 available for extra. Their annual payment is like 240 and their additional income is 175. Is that going to kind of strap them cash flow wise?
Right, Representative Wallace, I agree with that, and it was something that I was concerned about as well. But with this rate increase that they're doing, they're also put in there not only the project and repaying the project, but also to carry forward their operations and repair and replacement is in there as well. So yep, it's going to bring them in a little tight, but I think they have the ability to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Agreed. Okay, so if we have no other questions, we did the motion, so all those in favor. Oh, a second. I'm gonna be in trouble. Are we?
Second? No.
Sure. Terry will second. Okay. Again, any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously.
You need to note the recusal, or you already started that?
I think we started that at the beginning, so we're good. Louise, I'm gonna get in trouble because we're over time, but do you have any additional things you'd like to discuss that you won't do in your presentation?
You know, not much. Just like what I was saying earlier, we're seeing a lot more public safety. Things that are for loans, fire stations, equipment, all that kind of stuff. You'll see in the staff approved that a lot of it's for law enforcement. And so that's really the things that are coming in is higher public safety of folks just moving in. And the growth and just our public servants out there trying to deal with it.
Okay, we'll look forward to seeing you. Not yet. This is why I'm concerned about.
There's no clock.
Thank you. Thanks, Louise.
That's probably wise.
Yeah, well, I'm chairman of another board and they never put time on it for me because I get too concerned. So we do have a couple loan policy revisions, so do we want to talk about that? And I think they might be under a different tab.
No, they're just after the add-on.
Okay.
You're missing it.
Well, heck, no wonder. So Doug, are you gonna do this or?
Sure, I can do it. So what you have in front of us is a proposed change to the approved lender application policy. And we redlined the items that we would like removed, which is a copy of the authorized officer statement, which last year when we approved so many banks, this sentence came up multiple times. A lot of confusion with the banks trying to figure out what we actually meant with it. And I actually couldn't come up with a reason. So I'm suggesting that we get it out of there. Then down in D, we added that they would provide us a electronic funds transfer authorization, and then removing the requirement that annually we get the financial statements from the bank. So, you know, when I went through and looked at all of the loan files for the banks, there was no indication that any of these reviews have been done. So I'm suggesting that we remove it out of the policy.
So Doug, does that in any way, in your opinion, increase the risk to the board, not having those or not enforcing that?
No, I don't feel it increases our risk.
So one of the reasons we discovered this was because we had so many banks sign up to be part of the CARES Act program. We typically get the same borrower mix within the in-state loan program on a regular basis. I mean, they're the ones that always come before you. If we see a new lender come before you that we haven't seen for a while, and there's something off about it, we still have the ability to go pull these and request them from the lender as part of that application process. So if we see a lender for the first time in a while, we can go back and look at this just to make sure that everything's copacetic.
Good. Any other questions on that policy revision?
Maybe just a quick add on, a copy of the authorized officer statement. That's typically found within the EFT form, who's authorized to do it. So that it's sort of a move it from here down to here, but also call it what it's called, as opposed to making up terminology that no one can really trace it to. So we'll still have the officers at the bank who are authorized to do the transactions with us as part of that EFT authorization.
Good. So is there any questions for any Doug or anybody on this? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the changes submitted by staff. There a second? Second. Moved and second. Comments, question? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? If not, the motion to approve that is approved unanimously. And Doug, do you have any comments for our committee that you won't make in your regular meeting?
You know, I would just say that continue to receive inquiries from banks on loan programs, the participation program in particular. So there is still activity out there, which is good. And so I think the lending community is still working hard to try to make good loans, and hopefully we'll get some more participations from them. Thank you.
And one question here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, you have a question.
I could just follow up to that, Doug. You know, it's just about a year ago now that we saw a pretty substantial increase in the number of financial institutions around the state involved in what we were doing because of the CARES Act fund. Have you seen a follow-up? Is at least a part of the increase in interest a result of those new relationships that we established in the last year?
Yeah, I think it is. It certainly didn't hurt us to get our name out there. And I think more lenders are aware of the Board of Investments. I think once the the COVID requirements get lifted, that'll give me the opportunity to go out and meet with the banks and discuss our programs. So I'm starting to see more banks allowing people into the bank and wanting to have meetings. So it's definitely going to help us as we go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Folks, take a quick break before we start.
HR? Yeah.
And then we can